Well, it's over. We lost. We came so close to getting a confirmatory referendum, but in the end, we couldn't beat the first past the post system, and we fell at the last hurdle. Pretty devastated, especially when many of us can see how this is going to unfold. The Conservatives won really because they drove through the message of get Brexit done. But of course, anybody that understands what Brexit actually is knows that that's a lie in itself. But nonetheless, they drove that message through in the same way as take back control, get Brexit done. These things resonated with people, coupled with people's fear of a Corbyn government, and the first past the post, we lost it. It's over. Brexit is going to happen. There's very little we can do to stop that now. My suspicion is that we will end up leaving at the end of next year without a deal. But we'll see. We'll see whether Johnson, because he's got a majority now, whether he softens his approach or whether the new intake of Conservative MPs that are basically, many of them are purists, will eventually steer the country to crashing out without a deal at the end of 2020. Don't know. One thing that did come out from last night is that this country is a Remain country. More people voted for parties that wanted a referendum than wanted to leave. That wanted a referendum but then didn't. I think it broke down to 52-48 in favour of a referendum rather than against, which is a bit ironic. So how's the next year going to unfold? None of us really know, because none of us really know what Boris Johnson stands for, because Boris Johnson doesn't really stand for anything. Boris Johnson is out for himself. He's a liar, and as we all know, before the original European Union referendum, he couldn't decide which way to go, whether to support Remain or whether to support Leave, and in the end he opted to support Leave because he considered that was best for his career prospects. And for him and for Dominic Cummings, they've played a blinder, which is just bizarre, really, considering the sheer volume of lies and misinformation. But I think it's very telling of what's happening to this country. And that is that there's an enormous cohort of people in this country, millions and millions of people in this country, that know Boris Johnson's a liar, but they believe he's their liar. They know Boris Johnson's a liar, but they allow him to lie because they believe it's a means to an end that they support. It's quite incredible how ethics in politics have pretty much vanished over the past 3 years. It's strange to think that it wasn't that long ago that there was a uproar in the country about MPs' expenses, where MPs were prosecuted and fined. Yet now there doesn't seem to be any uproar about the sheer volume of lies that are told, the suppression of reports about Russian interference in our electoral system. And so this is really what we're up against. Now, the pro-European Union campaign, the People's Vote campaign, etc., wasn't just about remaining in the European Union, it was fighting against so much more than just leaving the European Union. It was, for many of us, it was standing up against what we saw as a power grab by a cabal of right-wing disaster capitalists, people that have very little regard for the country, the nation state, or that are completely ideological in their thinking, that they're blinkered to the nuance of the reality of the situation, and they're driving through this thing. So we were fighting against that. And although we are going to leave the European Union, although Brexit is going to happen, we have a choice now. We give up and we just let them get on with it, or we somehow try to remain together and fight against this thing that's sweeping across our country. I say we stand and fight. We can't let these people get away with it. They've won today, but there'll be more battles ahead. So we have a choice. We let them continue to win, or we somehow find a way of remaining together and being a counterbalance to their authoritarian, right-wing ideological position. And in the case of Johnson, it's not even ideological. It's purely political expediency on his part, what's best for him. Now, we're all shattered. We're all incredibly disillusioned and downhearted today. But we've got to pick ourselves back up. I think maybe get Christmas out of the way, try and have a good Christmas, spend time with friends and family, enjoy yourselves. But then in the new year, we need to come back together and we need to stand against this. Now, I'm not sure how this is going to happen, but we have millions of people across this country in various groups, various organisations that all want the same thing, that we want to fight against this power grab by these people. And as I said before, remember, more people in this country voted for parties that wanted a referendum than voted for parties that didn't. So we are a Remain country, it's just that we are governed by a hard Brexit government now. Now, I don't know how we're going to defeat this government in the next 5 years. They have a substantial working majority. The opposition is in disarray, but then the opposition is always in disarray after a general election. But I'm sure we will come back together again and we will fight this, and in the end we will win. And I want to say to anybody that watches this that's from the European Union, that's come to the United Kingdom and made this country their home, thank you for coming. There's millions of us that care about you. There's millions of us that are on your side. And we will continue to fight for you, and we want you to stay. And for those people from the United Kingdom that have made other European Union countries their home, you're not forgotten. We remember you, and we're fighting for you as well, and for you to stay in the fight. For those people that supported Brexit, that will watch this, I always said that I would admit when I was wrong, and I was wrong. We came close, but I was wrong. You won. For the moment, you won. We're in very dangerous territory now. The United Kingdom could quite easily fall to pieces. Scotland could very easily vote to leave the United Kingdom. And Northern Ireland, which for the first time in its history now has more nationalist MPs than it does unionist MPs, could very easily end up joining the rest of the island of Ireland, in which case it would leave England and Wales. Now, this was always a possibility. It was always dismissed as Project Fear, but we are now we are looking at this could quite possibly happen now. The Tories now have nowhere to hide. They fully and completely own Brexit. And the next year, with all the promises they've made about getting Brexit done, about having an oven-ready deal, etc., they'll need to deliver on those promises, but they won't be able to. Because remember, the only thing that Boris Johnson's agreed at the moment is the withdrawal agreement. So he's basically taken Theresa May's agreement and he's added to that, or I should say he's subtracted from that and replaced it with a border down the Irish Sea. So we split the United Kingdom in two. Something that Theresa May said no British Prime Minister would ever contemplate, but he's done that. He's thrown the DUP under the bus, and he's essentially divided this country. So that's your win, Brexiters. This is what you've won. And over the coming years, not only are you going to face increasing pressure for the United Kingdom to dissolve, you're going to have to replace our almost complete trading relationship, our mutual recognition agreements, all of these things, just to get us back to where we currently are. And this is going to take decades to do. The much prized trade deal with the United States is going to be savage. They will demand things that are going to be incredibly unpalatable to people, especially people in poorer areas of the country. And they'll do it because they'll know that we have very little collateral, we have very little leverage. And because so much emphasis has been put on a trade deal with the United States, politicians will be desperate to deliver that. And because they're in a situation of desperation, they will probably end up signing a deal eventually that is incredibly bad for this country. So this is what you've won. You have to live with this. The rest of us, millions of us, have tried our hardest to stop this from happening. We've tried our hardest to save this country from this fate, but we failed. You won, we failed. So now you need to deliver. And in the meantime, I'm convinced those of us that want to remain in the European Union, after we've licked our wounds, after we've got over this really quite devastating defeat, we're going to come together and we're going to push back against this. But for now, it's just a time of trying to get over it, enjoying Christmas, enjoying spending time with your family, and everybody that's of like mind with me I urge you to, if you know European Union friends, if you've got European Union friends, family, work colleagues, just let them know that you care about them, because it must be quite terrifying for them at the moment. So there we go. That's my feelings today. Pretty devastated, but we will carry on. This isn't over, and I think the anger as things unfold, I think eventually we're gonna push back on this, and hopefully in the end, in the long run, we'll put this right. And also remember, there are millions of younger people that are coming into voting age, or that are soon to come into voting age, who see Brexit and us leaving the European Union and cooperation with other nation states as an anathema. They see it as ridiculous. They're concerned about climate change. They're concerned about things that really, really matter for their future, rather than some kind of like ridiculous chocolate box patriotism or fake notion of patriotism that certain people seem to have. And they'll have no interest in continuing this line, this movement direction the country's going in. So there's hope everywhere. It's just we need to get over this, focus our minds, and then get back on it. And if you haven't already, I really urge you to seek out and follow a couple of people. Firstly, there's Mike Galsworthy. I'm sure many of you probably do follow already. And secondly, there's Ian Dunt, who's the editor of politics.co.uk. Both these people, in my view, are incredibly articulate and incredibly well placed to think these things through and give a direction for all of us. I'll be throwing in my thoughts as the weeks and months progress, but I really, really do urge you to, if you haven't already, to seek these people out and follow them on Twitter, Facebook, whatever. Take care, everybody.